I can't tell you how excited I am.
It's football and rugby time again.
It is. We are so excited to be joined by Nate Ebner, 3-time Super Bowl champion, Olympic rugby player, and now author of the new book, Finish Strong, A Father's Code and a Son's Path. All right, Nate, so what does it feel like to have author added to that bio of all those accomplishments?
Thanks for having me, first of all. But, no, it's pretty cool. I mean, it was a fun project. It took quite a lot of time, but ultimately it was, something that was, in a way, therapeutic for me. So I really enjoyed the project, and I hope people enjoy it.
Nate, it's more than just a project. This is a book that hits close to home for a lot of people, especially you. What was it like going through the process of writing that book and living those memories about your dad and you?
Like I said, it was therapeutic. I mean, there's obviously a lot of tough memories that you got to go through and talk about. But in a way, there were so many good things, and I also kind of gained a respect and learned more about who my dad was and how awesome of a parent he was and how lucky I was to have him. And like I said, gained some respect for how he handled me and, did it in such a graceful way. It's a lot of good stuff, and it was, like I said, therapeutic is a good way to put it.
I saw something that said this is an astonishing story about what a father will do for his son and what a son will do for his father. The thing I found fascinating about the book is rather than being a book about sports, and there's plenty of it in there, it seems like you use sports as the tool to tell the story of the relationship that you and your dad had. Can you talk about how you tried to tell your family story through the lens of the sports that you were involved in?
Yeah, I mean, that was a big point to me, especially when I spoke with the publishing company and the writer, that this to me was a story about my dad and how awesome of a parent I had. The sports story is obviously a cool, unique one. Unlike many others, a lot of cool stuff happened, but ultimately it was the vessel for the story of my relationship with my dad. And at the end of the day, I think of myself as a pretty normal person. With a little mental fortitude and some grit about me, but I got those things, through my dad, which, we talk about in the title is the father's code. And through that code, I was able to go on a pretty cool journey, the son's path part. And, I was able to do some really amazing things, through the things that he taught me. And that was the story to me, more than, how bright the lights were during the Super Bowl and things of that nature. So, that was the most important part for me.
Most people know you through your success, your Super Bowls with the Patriots and as a football player and now being on the Giants. But it seemed to me that your real sports passion is rugby.
And that seems to come from your dad and the passion he had. Can you talk about your experience with him in rugby?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of allude to that in the book. Rugby, football was something that grabbed onto me and has been a great part of my life, but rugby always had my heart. And it was something that I started with at a really young age. I was exposed to really my entire life. And at a very young age, I started to become pretty good at it. And, as anyone does in life, when you are good at something, you gravitate towards it. And rugby was something that was, always a major part of my life. And because of circumstances, I ended up going to play football. But like I said, rugby had my heart. And when, for instance, it got put into the Olympics, it was really not much of a question for me. It was something I felt compelled and, convicted in my decision to do. And it's just always been a part of me. And that relationship between my father and myself, rugby really flamed that relationship in the sense that it was something we shared, almost in different ways. He was a violent guy. I kind of grew to love rugby for the beauty of the game. But, towards the end, it was something we got to share together rather than, me love it because he loved it. He let me love it in my own way. And I think that was what was so beautiful about, how he parented and things of that nature. So, like I said, rugby has been there through and through, and it really will always be a part of my life.
And despite football being your career, you were able to somehow still continue to play rugby to the point that you made the Olympics. What was it like for you to go out there and be there for opening ceremonies in 2016 and represent your country?
Yeah, I mean, look, I was 4 years into my NFL career, just finished my rookie contract, just finished talking with Bill Belichick about signing a second contract. But amongst that, I said, Bill, the rugby's in the Olympics, and it's something I've absolutely have to do. And I would have understood if he would have said, no, this is putting you at risk, and this isn't good for the team. I would have understood that. But it was ultimately something I felt I had to do. In a way, I'm not big into destiny, but if there ever was destiny for someone who grew up their entire life playing a sport, it hasn't been in the Olympics for 100 years almost. For me to be in my athletic prime, for the United States to qualify when no one in the world thought would even qualify for the Olympics, all those stars aligned perfectly for me. And, it was something towards the end as we got closer to the Olympics that I really didn't have a choice in that decision. So once I made the team and got to go to the Olympics and, go to those opening ceremonies and, walk into the stadium on a different continent where they don't even speak English and hear the roar that came out when we walked out as the United States, that really hit hard, not only because of all the times I've represented the United States and put on a USA jersey previously to that point, but all the traveling I've done around the world has given me an appreciation for the United States. And then to hear this country full of people that don't know anything about us cheer for us like that, it really showed me what I'm representing and how much bigger this whole thing is than myself. And to be a part of stuff like that is a type of memory I'll never lose, and I'll always remember. It was an amazing experience.
So now you're out training, trying to go back for a second time to the Olympics this year. What would it mean for you to have the chance to go back again?
This time around things are different. First off, I've kind of got some personal injury issues I'm working through, but aside from that, I know what I'm coming into this time around. I was a little more prepared from an endurance standpoint because it was such a physical task to switch gears from football to rugby where you're nonstop. So I was a little more prepared in that respect. I was a little more prepared into the systems playing on the national team. I had obviously been in the Olympics before, so I kind of knew how we operated. All of that the first time around was a major learning curve. So this time around, I'm a little more prepared, but I'd say the motivation was more based on the fact that we didn't get a medal in 2016, and I really felt we had the team to do so. I think everyone did, and we came up just a bit short in the pool games. And I think when I look back at my career, one of the bigger things that bothers me is when someone accidentally says to me, oh, you're the guy that you won a medal in the Olympics for rugby, and I have to correct them and tell them, no, we didn't win a medal. So I've always wanted to right that wrong. And, big picture wise, I just want that for rugby in the U.S. I want us to win a medal. I want us to kind of grab the eyes and hearts of Americans and see how hard we're working and how good of a team we have. And I want that for rugby. I want that success to just continue and be one of the best, nations in the world in the rugby game, not only in sevens, but hopefully transition that into the 15th World Cup. And it's all about growing the sport, whether I'm on that team and help us get a medal or, help prepare the team that's selected. And hopefully we put our best foot forward and we have an opportunity to come home with some hardware.
I wanted to go back to the book for a minute. It spoke to me in terms of the way you wrote it as somebody who lost my own father this year and have been dealing with that, and then a parent of young children learning sports with them. You said you want parents to read this because you want everybody to understand time's so precious, and they should spend time with their children because you never know what they're instilling. Can you talk more about why this is such an important read for parents?
Well, a lot of reasons, and then kind of like you said, time is precious, and something is going to be instilled in your children. And it's whether you're doing it or their environment or atmosphere or friends or school or whatever is doing it. And the more you dive into your children's lives and you are the major influencer in their lives, they won't be as affected by outside pressures like peer pressures in school and things of that nature. And the more you're involved, the more you'll understand them. And I think that is a huge part of it. I think it's also, for me, when I think of sports and parents, so many times I just see parents go about it the wrong way and yelling at their kids or trying to force them to do things. I thought my dad did in such a graceful way, which, I hope I can do justice if I'm ever a parent to my kids. But he allowed me to find my own passions, and then he flamed that fire. He never really made me do anything. He let me choose. We got all kinds of different sports experiences, and obviously I gravitated towards rugby and football and things of that nature. But when it came to doing those things, they were always my decision. And then when it came to exercising and working out to try to get better, those were always my choices. But the biggest part to that was he just had me, if we're going to do something, we're going to do it all the way. It's your choice if you want to do it. But if we're going to do it, let's actually do it. Let's try to get something out of it. And I think being a professional athlete, is just too hard of a thing to do if you're not passionate about it for yourself, if you're doing it for other people. So, I think it needs to be something inside of yourself if you're going to make it to that level. And I thought he did a good job of letting me find that myself.
Piggybacking on that point, we've talked to so many athletes who say that they found their passion for sports, for the sport, that it wasn't their parent instilling it in them, that their parent would push them to be the best at it. But the great athletes are the ones that, when they were younger, were given the options and found that path that was their passion. Is that a lesson that you think parents can learn from what you did, and the fact that you were able to pursue different things and then pick which one was the one that you loved?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, even kids, they're their own person, You can't, if someone's artistic or likes to read books, you can't just make them want to be in the weight room or running around on a football field if that's not something they're passionate about. I think you need to let people find out who they are and then flame their fire to be as good as they possibly can be at that. And, ultimately it's like we just spoke about, like his ability to just let me do what I wanted and then, push me to get the most out of myself. That's important because, like I said, it's just too hard at the highest level to do something. All the workouts that we have to do, all the field work that you have to do, all the nutrition and the sleeping and the sacrifices you have to make for this sport, you're not going to make it if you're doing it because, my dad wanted me to do this. At some point, you get in these tough days in the middle of the week, in the middle of a training camp, where there's no escape, and you gotta want to do it every day yourself. It's just too difficult of a task. So I think that is important for parents to understand, is to let the kids be who they are and then embrace it and encourage them to be as good as they can at whatever they choose.
I think that's a great place to leave it. The book is finished strong, A Father's Code and a Son's Path. Nate Ebner, we could talk to you all day. Thank you so much for the time. I wish you the best of luck with the book.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys. Appreciate you having me, and go get yourself a book. It's a cool story. Ultimately, I like to say it's just a great love story at the end of the day.
Good luck with the Olympics, too. You take care.
Thanks, man.